Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. We finally got some bans in Legacy. We got Expressive Iteration and White Plume Adventurer banned. So this is the first video I'm recording since the bans have gone up, and the video that comes out tomorrow was actually recorded before the bans. But anyway, so today is our midweek meta deck slot, and we are playing John Hata's Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy winning deck. He was playing Mono Red Painter. So the aim of this deck is to have Painter's Servant in play, and then target your opponent with a Grindstone. It will mill 2 cards, and because those cards will be the same colour because of Painter's Servant, it will just repeat the process until your opponent has no library. Now, the way we're going to go about doing this is using things like Goblin Engineer to tutor for our pieces, Fable the Mirror Breaker to dig for them, Welders, and obviously the Engineers to sort of weld bits and pieces back and forth. We can use Phyrexian Dragon Engine and Breya's Apprentice as ways of digging further. And we've got a load of fast mana in terms of Ancient Tombs, City of Traitors, a couple of Lotus Petals, a couple of Simian Spirit Guides. And we've also got a reasonably good mid-rangey plan with our Furies, Urza Saga tokens, and, you know, lightning bolts and bits and pieces to clear the way. Another thing we get by being a mono red is Painter's Servant allows us to use these Pyroblasts and Red Blast. So these are pretty good in the format anyway, because blue is kind of everywhere, and with Initiative banned, I imagine there's going to be more blue decks than there were before. And so this is just going to be a pretty good spell to have, but with Painter's Servant, you can use it on any spell, so you get a lot of value there. So that's more or less the deck. There's a lot of interesting interlocking lines and things like that we can do. This particular build, the things that stand out to me as being interesting is the 4 main deck lightning bolts, and the fact that we're running both Phyrexian Dragon Engine and Breya's Apprentice. We also have only 4 bits of Lotus Petal Simian Spirit Guide mana, whereas some builds go all the way up to 6, sometimes more, but usually you'd be looking about a 3-3-ish split. We have 1 Soul Guide Lantern and a Mox Opal as sort of like extra targets for our Urza Saga, but we're not going into Shadow Spear and that sort of thing. We're not trying to win the game by just making big constructs and beating with them. We can do that, but we're not trying to go fully into that with the Shadow Spear. One other thing I'd like to mention from the main deck is we're running a Sokenzan, or however you pronounce this one. So this is an interesting one. Basically, the idea is this just gives you a little bit more of a way of pressuring Planeswalkers or giving yourself some emergency blockers if you need to. And the reason why people run this is because if you're getting wastelanded anyway, this is not the thing they're necessarily going to be wastelanding, because, you know, you've got Great Furnaces, you've got Soul Lands, you've got Urza Saga. All of these are higher priority targets for wastelands, so maybe you can get away with this without getting wastelanded. But it's not free to play, is something worth noting. Alright, that's more or less it for the main deck. Let's have a little chat about the sideboard. So we've got another Fury to round it out, so we're really going to be clamping down on Elves pretty hard. We have a Torpor Orb. Now this is going to have less use now because, you know, the Initiative's not around, but Doomsday is probably going to pick up because of it, because they're expecting less people to have Hushbringers and Torpor Orbs. So we have 1 here that we can shoot for with Engineer, and we can shut down Doomsday lines. We have a Thorn of Amethyst to help against Storm combo decks and the like. 3 Mindbreak Traps for the same sort of job. 3 Magus of the Moon. So people against us are going to be bringing in Force of Vigors and ways of blowing up artifacts, which also usually hit enchantments too. Magus of the Moon dodges that, so this is the best piece of hate we can have. Obviously, it's not very good with our own Urza Sagas, but when we bring it in, it's going to be so much better against our opponent that we don't mind. We've got a little bit of artifact hate in Abrade, but that can also be flexed into removal against matchups like Elves. And we have a Pithing Needle. If we need to bring in a target for our Urza Saga, we can also go find with the Engineer. And, of course, 4 Leyline in the Void. Just having the best graveyard hate possible seems like a very good thing to do. We have ways of pitching additional copies in terms of both Phyrexian Dragon Engine and Fable the Mirror Breaker, so the cost of it is pretty low. And we do have Mox Opal and some Petals, so there is a chance that we can hardcast 1 if we need to. Alright, that's pretty much it for the deck tech. I have played Red Painter once before on my channel, but we're going to dive into this one and see how we do. But before that, it's plug time. Like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing, but they really help me out, so why not do them? Okay, let's play a Legacy League with John Hata's tournament-winning deck list. Alright, we're on the play for round 1. This is our opening hand. I would like some permanent mana sources. Now, that's not to say that we don't have a decent amount of stuff going on here, but I think we do have to get a permanent. So we could play like Goblin Engineer on 1, but if this gets killed, I think we're in trouble. We just need a permanent mana source to get going. This one seems fine. I think we can keep this. We're probably bottoming the Fury here. Or, actually no, it's probably an Ancient Tomb, right? So we can play out this, and it's tricky if we actually run the Painter out here, or we just hold up the paint. I think we probably can run the Painter out here, whilst we don't have to worry about things like days. And we'll name blue with this, so our Pyroblasts are alive, regardless of the matchup. They might also think that we're the blue painter build and have our own force of wills and things, since the blue painter build has been putting up some really good results lately. A mountain. Orcish Lumberjack. So this is the Applejack's deck. Understood. We're kind of in a bit of an awkward spot here because we want to hold up our Pyroblast. I don't think I want to burn a Fury just on the Lumberjack here. I think we just pass the Pyroblast up. Maybe that's a bit conservative, but we'll see. I need a forest to get the 3 mana. Okay, so this can go get them the forest. Like if they're playing something like a Minsk and Boo, we want to just be able to snap off a Pyroblast and say no to it. There's definitely ways you can get punished from this line. Alright, what are we looking at here? If they leave up a green mana, they might be doing a Veil of Summer here. It'd be awkward for us. Okay, they did not have the Veil of Summer. Just an Ignoble Hierarch. Excellent. Okay, so now we would like to draw some red mana, but we can do other stuff. So we can put the Goblin Engineer into play, find the Grindstone. We will need some more mana before we get that up and running. Or we can just play the Fable Mirror Breaker and develop our board a little bit here. Let's try that one out. We'll attack with our Painted Servant. And then we're probably going to fire off our Fury and just pick up a 2 for 2 here. And really stop our opponent's mana development. They're basically trying to make 4 drops. If we can stop them doing that, that's pretty good. So we're going to evoke this. We're getting rid of the Welder here because the Engineer can tutor for our piece. Means our Fable's not going to be getting us as much value here. Alright, 2 on each one. Clear out their board. So we're quite far ahead now on board. Our opponent's got a lot of mana to go before they can start deploying the things their deck is designed to deploy. We'll see. An Orcish Lumberjack, sure. So they can play a Minsk and Boo next turn. They just got another guy. A Green Sun. So this is going to fetch them a Dryad Arbor. Okay, so they can have a lot of mana next turn. I don't want this Sokenzan. I don't think we need this right now. We'll pitch this one and draw a new card. Okay, a mountain. Similar but different. So we play this, and as long as we don't die, as long as this lives and other bits and pieces live, we should be able to win next turn. So we'll engineer ourselves up a nice little... That's very small. Let's make that a bit bigger. A Grindstone. And then we can attack with both of our guys here. They can double block the Shaman, but we don't really care about that. So if our opponent has a Fury, that's going to be pretty bad for us. Going to take out the Engineer and the Painted Servant. There's a Bayou, so that gives us a little bit of information about our opponent's deck. They're going to be having some probably Snuff Outs or something, but we'll see. This looks like another Minsk and Boo. It's kind of the scariest thing you can cast for red, green, and 2. Or this could just be a really big Green Sun Zenith for something quite terrifying. 5, 6. So it could be something like Primeval Titan. It feels like a Green Sun because of the way our opponent's taking their time to pay the cost. A Titania with green-black remaining. Interesting. We don't care about this Titania right now. It's what this green-black mana in their pool is going to do that I'm worried about. So if you're unfamiliar with this one, whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you make a 5/3, and when it comes into play, you get a land back from the bin. So they got there with the foothills and cracked it. So they put another creature on board. Do they have answers to what we're doing here? Okay, so they have a Grist. So they can blow up our Painted Servant here. Or they can blow up our Engineer. Let's see which one they go for. They're going for the Engineer. Okay. That makes sense because the Engineer can let us rebuild our board. This does mean that we can just draw a Grindstone, but there's only one left in our deck. So, okay, we drew an Engineer, and this is going to flip. So let's deploy the Engineer. Our opponent's Hellbent. We just need to survive a turn. So we're going to go and get with this. Yes, we'll use the ability. If something goes wrong, we might want the Breya's Apprentice. Yeah, let's put the Breya's Apprentice in case somehow our graveyard gets... some amount of our graveyard gets taken away. So these do not have Trample. This does not have Trample. Okay, so we can chump block with our guys if we need to. So our opponent has to draw something good this turn. Otherwise, we just grind them out. I'm making a little guy here. Showing some more cards. Not really sure what black stuff they've got in their deck. So we have to chump block at least one of these. Let's block this one and we take 10. So we still activate our Ancient Tomb. What does our opponent have here? If we draw a land, that'd be good. Okay, not a land. A Pyroblast, though, certainly helpful here. So we will float red. We will sacrifice. We would like to get our Grindstone back, sacrificing our Great Furnace. We have a Pyroblast to cover whatever they have here. Okay, so they're scooping it up before we get to see their whole deck. So, this matchup, they got a lot of creatures that they're trying to leverage here. So Fury seems pretty nice. The Abrade certainly has some text that might be useful here. Pithing Needle for Minsk and Boo seems nice. Abrade kills off their little mana dorks. It also kills Tanya. Magus of the Moon here, they did just fetch a load of non-basics, but I don't think we want to go down that route. So we've got 3 cards that we're looking at. How are we going to board these out? Saga Lantern has a little bit of text here, but I don't think it's that important. I think we can do without it, so we'll get rid of that. Our Red Blast and stuff feel less good. in this matchup, so we're going to take them out and just have these removal spells. So we've still got some in, so that we can use them in combination with our Painter's Servant. And I don't think we want these other bits and pieces. I think I'm going to submit like this. Alright, this is our opening hand for the second game. I don't think it really gets us anywhere. So we're going to mulligan this one. Alright, this one looks like a much better keep to me. We have to work out what we're getting rid of. So the lightning bolt is going to be good in this matchup. So we could try and get a little bit lucky and bottom one of our lands here. And hope that we can draw into the Fable for lands. That feels a little bit suspicious to me. I think we can bottom the Grindstone, use the Saga and the Engineer to get our pieces. I think that's the safest way of playing this hand. Right, Apprentice start with a Tiger. A Greenstone's there. So this is going to be a Dryad Arbor. There we go. And then it's over to us. So this doesn't represent the really scary things. An Ancient Tomb. Does that impact the way we want to play this turn? I don't think so. I think we are playing out the mountain with the idea of lightning bolting potentially next turn. If not, we can play... If we do lightning bolt, we can favour the Mirror Breaker. If we don't, we can drop a Saga and get that ticking. Let's see what our opponent does here. So this is a Minsc and Boo. So we can target the Minsc and Boo now before they've made a Boo, so they don't get to activate because there's a trigger. So then they just get a 1-1 for their troubles. So we take 1 here. That's not too big a deal. So now we can look to get our Engineer going if we want, or we can get the Fable going. I think we'll see what we draw and then make an informed choice based on what we draw. So, I think we get 2 bites of the cherry here. So I think we can Urza Saga and play the Engineer. So if they have something like an Endurance, they might pop it off. But then we have another one that we can use. So let's put a Painter's Servant in the graveyard and work towards our kill using Grindstone from our Urza Saga. We will need an artifact, but you can activate the Grindstone and then weld it for a Painter. That's usually a pretty good play. Okay, we've got their creatures checked here. So this is going to go up 1. Alright, another Ancient 2. Not really what we wanted to see here. So we can either play out this Fable the Mirror Breaker, which gives us an artifact next turn, or we can play out the Ancient Tomb. I think we're supposed to... It's a little bit tough, actually. I think we just play out the Fable here. 1, 2, 3. Get this. This gives us an artifact to work with. That seems nice to me. Okay, so they are endurancing away our thing, and they're pitch casting this. So what have they pitched for this? An Elvish Spirit Guide. Oh, sorry, no, they're just casting this. Alright, that's fine. So they've got a 3-4. I think we can race that. And yeah, we're in an okay spot. Because we've got the second Engineer. We can happily take this 2. It frees up our Shaman to attack and either get a really good trade or not. Okay, so we have a Welder as well. I think we'll put this one first and then we'll draw off of our thing. So we're probably getting rid of Welder and an Ancient Tomb here. Okay, a Pyroblast. Let's float a mana off of this. Go and get ourselves a Grindstone. So we have 1-2 mana, 3-4 mana, 5 mana. So 3 of that goes into the Grindstone. 1 of that goes into the Engineer. Okay, this seems fine. So let's play out the Engineer and get our Painter. So they have a second... If they have a second Endurance here, we're in a little bit of trouble, but not much trouble, really. So this gives us the ability to Grindstone whenever we want. We're not under any pressure, so what we're going to do is we're going to wait until our opponents... Until we can untap with a Pyroblast, and then do it. Because at the moment, we'd have to pay 3 for this and then grind it away. And then Engineer it away. So we may as well wait until we have our Pyroblast just to make sure nothing too bad happens. Also, we get our second Engineer active, so we can swap it out. So we just have more options this turn. Phyrexian Dragon Engine, sure. And this flips. We didn't really care about it flipping too much. But we'll play out a land. Okay, so if we tap for 3 on this and hold priority, 1, 2, 3, then we can return this Painter's Servant, pay a red, get rid of Grindstone. What have they got here? An Endurance. Then in response, we get this Painter's Servant out, we pay a red, we sacrifice his treasure. We have to have another Endurance and something to pitch to it. Our opponents are chatting about why didn't we do it before or whatever, but I wanted to have both Engineers up in play. Alright, so we win the match. Alright, this is our hand for the second game. We have an interesting one here. We can lead out with a Lightning Bolt for whatever the first play is, and then just do Painter and do some blasting. I've not really played a hand like this before with Red Painter. I've not played Red Painter that much, really. So I'm going to give this one a go. It's certainly got a reasonable game plan. We have a basic to lead on, which is always good. We have a lot of good draws in our deck that can just win us the game pretty quickly. And it feels like it's going to be relatively difficult for us to lose with this current setup. So we play out our mountain. We can hold up a Pyroblast on turn 1 if they're a blue deck, or we can play lightning bolts and all sorts. Okay, nothing from our opponent. An Urza's Saga. Does that change things? I don't think so. I think we are going to play out our Painter's Servant here. This can get us our Grindstone when the time comes. We'll name blue and pass. So we're holding up Pyroblast and Lightning Bolt. Ideally, we don't want our opponent to do anything on our end step, and they didn't. Excellent. Tundra. What do we got here? Prismatic Ending. I would like to Pyroblast this. Excellent. I think we play this out. Get this up and running. Get a little bit of damage in case we have to end up pivoting to another Saga plan. We've got a couple of Lightning Bolts as well, which can help the damage plan. Swords to Plowshare. Let's try and Pyroblast this one as well. Alright. A Ponder from our opponent. Another Ponder. They did not shuffle off the first. That might have been because they found a Ponder, and they figured a Ponder was better than a blind draw. So they might as well use that one to then dig a little bit deeper. Alright. We need to fade one more turn. So here's our Saga. I think we play out a Great Furnace here. Maybe we're supposed to get the second Saga up and running. But the plan is to have our creature live for a bit longer. They did not shuffle their library with their Ponder as well. A Wasteland. So we're probably losing our Saga here. Kind of wish we played out the other Saga now. Alright, we will activate this. I don't think our life total is going to be that important. I'd rather keep up both these bolts just in case. So we will use the Ancient Tomb for this. Make ourselves a construct. We'll lose our Saga, but we can redeploy the other one. It means you've got to fade more turns of our opponent though. Okay. Play out this Saga. Our opponent can play a Hull Breacher this turn. But we've got these two Lightning Bolts. I think we're going to attack with both creatures here. So we might have our opponent sort of dead on two axes at the same time if things go well. So our opponent played a Tropical Island, and they're passing. We should have played our Great Furnace first. That was my bad. We can definitely get rocked by an Endurance here. Yep. Okay. I assume this Endurance is going to kill the Painter's Servant. So we're going to let this happen. Yep. And then we're going to... I think we want to force the 1 damage through here. So we'll activate this. It doesn't really matter actually, does it? Let's just do it with this. So this will give us 1 extra damage. Oh wait, I've done that at the wrong time, haven't I? I keep doing that on online. Apologies to people watching. Not the cleanest. That turn was pretty bad for us because we made a couple of errors. Alright, so we'll name blue on this one. Yeah, so we should have played the Great Furnace first. And we should have made our creature at different timings. We could have bolted this to finish it off, but we can kill our opponent with these 2 Lightning Bolts in our hand. Alright. So we are going to activate our Urza Saga. Dress down would be pretty annoying. But if they don't have dress down, they die. Okay, so they conceded. Excellent. Nice. Alright, let's go to sideboarding. This looks like a sort of Bant control deck. So all the blasts and things look like they're going to be pretty useful. The Magus of the Moons here could be pretty good to shut them off of some of their bits and pieces. But I think our Urza Sagas are going to be just more powerful. So I don't think we want to do that. A Pithing Needle in favour of a Lightning Bolt. I can certainly get behind that one. Maybe a Fury instead of a Lightning Bolt as well. Just because this at least beats down. I think that's probably all we want. Like the Soul Guide's still fine here. They might have Uros, but I don't think we want Leylines for that. I think that's a little bit excessive. So I think we'll submit like this. Okay, this hand seems alright. Pyroblasts are going to have a lot of utility. We've got double Welders to really get things going and Fable to push us through into the mid to late game. I think this is fine. We'll keep this one. Our parent cracking the Flooded Strand on turn 1. Most likely going to be a Ponder here. So we're going to try and play a little bit tighter than the last game. We did win it, but we didn't really deserve to because we made 2 pretty big errors there. Right, so we can just lead out with a Welder. This is the sort of thing that gets killed on sight usually. So I'm imagining our opponent's probably going to untap and Prismatic Ending. It would be my reckoning. Right, our Welder resolved. Now it's over to our opponent. Okay, our opponent's just playing a land and passing. So we could be looking at something like a counterspell here. I don't believe our opponent is playing Dazes. We could try and weld something in this turn. So if we play out this Soul Guide Lantern, we'll exile their Ponder. And now we can play out our Engineer. This might get a counterspell though. But we can put Breya's Apprentice. Sure. So we've got a 2/4 with a Force of Will here. So we can... I don't think we want to attack. If they have something like a Snapcaster Mage, I'd rather keep our Welder alive. So we're not going to attack this turn. Because they might just take that trade. So we can use our Favour of the Mirror Breaker next turn to... Well, the turn after next to funnel the Phyrexian Dragon Engine into the bin. And then we can start drawing 3 every other turn, pretty much. Tiger. Okay. Over to us. I would have liked another land there, but I think we go for the Fable. rather than trying to play the Dragon Engine. Because if we can discard the Dragon Engine, that's just going to be much better value for us. Because the Phyrexian Dragon Engine is probably going to get Swords to Plowshare or exiled anyway, so we'd quite like to get some draws off it if possible. Alright, I think we just hold back here. Next turn we can bin off the Dragon Engine and probably the Fury, but we'll see what we draw and then make an informed decision. We've got an Uro checked, which I imagine is in our opponent's deck, along with a Minsc and Boo. This wasteland is going to be pretty good, unless they're playing something with it now. Okay, so they're playing a Minsc and Boo with it. That's fine. We've got the Fury, which we can use to ping it down. And we can support that with a Pyroblast to get it through a Force of Will. Sure, you can put some counters on that one. Okay, is it going to attack us? I suspect not. Right, let's see what we draw. Okay, so we have another Fable. So we can use this ability. So yes, we can pitch. We're definitely pitching the Dragon Engine. I guess we can pitch a Pyroblast. Okay, a Pithing Needle covers the Minsc and Boo quite nicely. So we do also have this problem of the Wasteland. We can clear the Boo, we can clear the Minsc, Pithing Needle the Wasteland. That doesn't feel amazing. I think there's a tough spot. I think we start off by evoking a Fury, pitching Fury. So we just kind of empty our hands and then we can start doing the Dragon Engine stuff. We could have kept up both Furies and just used both of them for this and then just drawn up again with our hand using the Dragon Engine. So Fury hits Planeswalkers, which is quite nice. So now we can put the Pithing Needle on the Wasteland if we want to. Or we can play out another Fable the Mirror Breaker. Tough choice. I think we're going to play out the other Fable with the Mirror Breaker here. We're sort of down on Pyroblast, but the only thing we'd want to Pyroblast is something we can't really Pyroblast right now. So we could throw this away for a token, but I don't think it's worth doing just yet. We can bring back the Phyrexian Dragon Engine though when we need to. So that seems good. So no attacks here, and we'll just pass. Pass. Okay. They thought about doing their Wasteland there, but they didn't do it. So I think we're just going to take this 4. It's a bit annoying with our Ancient Tomb, but we're probably not going to have this Ancient Tomb for much longer anyway. We'll see. This is like another Minsc and Boo from our opponent. This one can then throw the hamster at us, which is less ideal, truth be told. Let's see what they do with it though. I have to imagine this is just going to be a throw it and draw some cards here. Sure, so here's the sacrifice we thought was coming. I suspect... Oh, is it just going on a Shaman token? Okay, that's not so bad. They must be looking for like land plus plow, but we have multiple attackers for this Minsc and Boo. Our opponent is also playing quite slowly, so they're using up a fair chunk of their clock. Another Wasteland from our opponent. It's pretty good. That can take out our Ancient Tomb. Sure. Let's weld in a Dragon Engine here. And I think we do discard our hand here. Alright. So we've got these Fable of the Mirror Breakers kicking off. So one of them flips, which we can then do some weird copying shenanigans with. I have to imagine if our opponent had a Pitchcast Endurance, they would have done it in response to our Weld trigger. I think we can probably... I think we will get rid of one Red Blast here. Okay, Lightning Bolt is quite nice. Play our land, and then let's go to attacks. So this one at Minsc and Boo, this one at our opponent. If for some reason this doesn't work, we can always Pyroblast. I have to imagine if they had a removal spell, they use it on our Goblin Shaman token before we attack. Maybe. I guess they want to... I'm trying to think what it would be. Like Solitude, maybe? But if this doesn't work, we can fire off a Lightning Bolt and force it through with Pyroblast. Okay, looks like we're just getting the damage through and killing the Minsc and Boo. Alright, so here we could play the Painted Servant and hold up Pyroblast slash... I don't like this. I don't want to have to use our treasure this turn to force it through. I think we can just pass through the turn here. So we are slightly exposed to a Pithing Needle, to a Wasteland because we haven't got our Pithing Needle back. But we are quite far ahead on board, and if our opponent wants to mess around and take themselves off of mana to do that, then I don't think that's the worst case scenario for us, really. Like our Reflection of Kiki Jiki can do some pretty gross things with our Goblin Shaman to get us a load more artifacts and mana. We're kind of trying to dodge something like a Null Rod or something like that. Could be quite annoying. That's certainly something that you could expect to see out of one of these decks. Swords to Plowshares on our token, on our Kiki Jiki thing. Sure, that's fine by me. Scalding Tarn from our opponent. Cracking their Scalding Tarn. Is this going to be an Uro? If it's an Uro, we can just weld in the Sulgai Lantern, get the trigger to exile it. Okay, what are we looking at here? So there's the Uro. So let's see which way they stack the triggers. Okay, so they will get to potentially put a land in before we get to do our weldering. So cracking a Flooded Strand now. I think this is our spot to weld. It's tough to know which one we're supposed to weld here. I think I'm going to weld a treasure token, just keep the beats coming. And get this Soul-Guide Lantern back now. Whilst they don't have any mana to kill our welder, we can get rid of the Uro. No Uro for our opponent. We do still have Pyroblast up if we need it. This looks like a plow on our welder or engine, I would imagine. It could be on the shaman token, which would make me regret using the treasure token to get our Soul-Guide Lantern. But we can just draw a card with our Soul-Guide Lantern if we need to. We have our opponent dead in a couple of turns just through aggro damage. Okay, they're doing this on the welder. We can't stop that, so goodbye welder. Ancient Tomb is actually pretty nice here. We can go to attacks, attack with all creatures, hit our opponent for 6 here, make a treasure, play Ancient Tomb, play Painter, hold up Pyroblast, Lightning Bolt. Or are we supposed to... I guess if we have Painter with Pyroblast, we can stop something like a Terminus, although our opponent hasn't had a chance to set it up, but they could hardcast it. Or they can have a Supreme Verdict. So I have to decide if I want the Dragon Engine... if I want to have the Painter in play, even though we'll have 6 damage, 7, 8, plus however many Phyrexian Dragon Engines. Yeah, so we're going to have lethal next turn, even if we don't play the Painter, so maybe that's a little bit greedy. So it's an interesting choice here. So if they have a Supreme Verdict, then we can't protect it with a Painted Servant. If they have a Terminus, then we can protect it using the Pyroblast. But I think we're probably supposed to just play out the Tomb. I think we're going to play the Painter here. We can always unearth our Phyrexian Dragon Engine if it is Supreme Verdict. So let's put this on blue. And we've got a redraw with our Soul-Guide Lantern if we need it. We can stop an Uro coming into play. We've got a Pyroblast for any spell that interacts with our board. Like, if they've got spot removal, like, I think they would have cast a sweeper if they had one earlier. But the way they're tapping mana here is not something I'm a massive fan of. Meltdown. I would like to counter this Meltdown. Hydroblast. I think I'm going to draw a card with our Soul-Guide Lantern. If we hit another Pyroblast. Another Painter. So we'll float red here. How much is this to unearth? Let's have a look. Quite expensive to unearth, actually. Understood. Let's just bolt our opponent here. Put into 6. We can hit them for 4 next turn. Okay, we're getting wastelanded. So reanimating our... unearthing our Phyrexian Dragon Engine feels like it might be a bit challenging. But we can do it the turn after, potentially. Yes, okay. So we're going to copy this. We'll use our land that's more vulnerable to being killed. And we'll go to attacks. Attack all creatures. This is going to get us 2 treasure tokens. So next turn we can unearth our Phyrexian Dragon Engine if we want to. I think we don't play out the Painter here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have enough if we just draw a Grindstone to grind our opponent anyway. But they have 2 lethal threats on board right now, plus the Dragon Engine to worry about. Meltdown plus Supreme Verdict does it. Alright, we got the match. It was a bit of a slow one from our opponent, but we managed to get there in the end. I did not like the way I played the first game. I thought I played the second game a lot better. Alright, let's go to round 3. Alright, so playing against Arkans is going to be a tough matchup. Let's see. I don't know what they're going to be playing. What does our hand do? We have the combo sewn up here. We can play a pretty serviceable as a Saga game. I think we keep this. So I think we play out Lotus Petal and the Urza Saga so we can go on turn 3. We play out the Lotus Petal so we can hold up a Pyroblast while still deploying our Saga. Next turn we can play the Engineer. A Misty Rainforest. Okay. So we can play the Engineer or we can just try and play a Saga game here. What do I think is going to be the best against what our opponent is representing so far? Misty Rainforest doesn't tell us a lot of information. Then we'll throw out an Ancient Tomb and do a little bit of Saga-ing here, rather than just trying to go straight for it. An Underground Sea. Okay, maybe we should have gone straight for it. This is usually a combo land. So, Cling to Dust. I have to imagine that our opponent's deck is probably a slower deck if it's running Cling to Dust. They're more on the control spectrum, so we want to leverage the power from our Urza Saga here. This could be some sort of Grixis control list. Hurt ourselves a little bit to make a guy. Hurt ourselves a bit more to make another guy. A Lightning Bolt on this one. Sure. So we can get a Soul-Guide Lantern, or we can just get the Grindstone. I think we're just going to get the Grindstone here. Let our opponent know what we're all about. So, play out this Great Furnace. We can crack this now for an Engineer. Put a Painter in our graveyard. The next time we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So we have lethal if we do this. And we have the Spirit Guide with Pyroblast backup. I don't mind this. A Daze. Let's pay for that day. So this can put a Painted Servant into our graveyard. They do have a Cling to Dust, but it's 4, I believe, to flash it back, to escape it, whatever they want to call it these days. And, yeah, So next turn we have 4 mana available, which is enough to set up the kill. Okay, so they're going to blow up our engineer. And they're going to wasteland our tomb or our furnace. Sure, we've got lots of red sources, that's not an issue. It does shrink our construct though. So we can play this one out, and play out this just to pump our construct, and then we can attack. So we're holding up Pyroblast. Got plenty of mana to play around soft permission. We can start activating our Grindstone on our opponent if we wanted to, but I don't really want to do that. Third Path Iconoclast. I think we have to counter this one, otherwise it's going to get out of hand pretty quickly. Okay, so I've got an idea what our opponent's playing now. I think I've played against this deck before. Mountain out. So this means we can now hardcast a Fury if we draw one. I don't think we play out any more mountains because we might want to pitch them to a Fable the Mirror Breaker. But having 5 mana available, and if they wasteland our tomb, then obviously we can play out the mountain and get back up to 5 mana again. 6 mana is the mana that lets you play Painter Servant, Grindstone, and activate it. But obviously we've already got the Grindstone, so 5 is sort of the magic number for us. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay, that's quite late on in the game, so it's not the end of the day. Alright, this isn't going to do very much. Okay, our opponent's playing like Grixis, like Third Path thing, which is a bit like young Pyromancer decks used to be. Sure, I'm choosing the Pyroblast. We have nothing, I'm afraid. A Ponder, sure. They put 1 card on top of their library. I think we're supposed to grind that 1 card off. But now we're in this weird game where do they leave stuff on thinking that, oh, because I can grind them off or not? It's a weird game, the Grindstone versus the DRC. Okay, this is a good draw. I think we can go, we use this one and this to play this. We're going to put the Phyrexian Dragon Engine in the graveyard because we can reanimate this if we need to. 1, 2, 3. We can't do it right now. They know we have a mountain in our hand. Would they be willing to trade a Dragon's Rage Channeler for a construct? Probably not. I think we can do this. Okay. So they're giving up their selection here. If they want to cling to dust to get rid of our Phyrexian Dragon Engine, they can't interact with our other stuff. So what we can do is we can put the Phyrexian Dragon Engine in, and if they go to cling to dust it, we can then welder it in that way. So we've got some interesting options here. Let's see what this Mystic Sanctuary wants to do for them. They want to put a lightning bolt on top. Sure. We will take that lightning bolt off the top of the library. Fable the Mirror Breaker is certainly an interesting one here. Genuinely tricky to decide what I'm supposed to do here. I think we're going to play out this Fable. We're going to play out this mountain with the idea of engineering in our opponent's turn. We don't want to just fire something off because they can cling to dust it, but if they go to cling to dust something, we can then put it in response. So we kind of put our opponent in an awkward spot where they might have passed with 4 mana and not actually do anything here. So what are they going to target? They might target something in their own graveyard just to get the guaranteed draw, or they might want to force us to put something in, or they might want to test us to see if we're paying attention. Cling to dust targeting our Urza Saga. Interesting. I think we go activate this. I would like to get back. I think it's better to get the Dragon Engine than the Painter here. So this just gets us 3 cards. Sure. This does mean that they can spend their turn paying 4 mana to cling to dust our Painter's Servant, but we've got quite a fast clock here, and we've got other stuff going on, and we've got this Fable the Mirror Breaker, about to draw some more cards, so I think we're in an okay spot. If they have some sort of sweeper, I don't know what sweeper they would have. It would probably be something like the Hidetsugu Second Right, but that seems pretty bad in a deck that's got the Third Path and the Dragon's Rage Channeler, so I just think they don't have sweepers. Where's this lightning bolt going? On our Engineer. That's pretty fair. Okay, so left a card on top of their library. Now, is that a bait or not? We'll find out, I guess. If that to bait us into using our Grindstone. Okay, a Murktide. That's a real thing, for sure. So we're going to use our Fable here. We're going to draw some cards. Yes. I would like to get rid of these 2 lands here. Do we want to get rid of the Ancient... Do we want to get rid of the City of Traitors or the Simian Spirit Guide? I think it's the City. Okay, so play out our Urza Saga. Can we play out our Goblin Engineer? What do we want out of these options? If we get a second one, it's going to be much more difficult for them to cling to dust. They can't get rid of both of them, but obviously they can get rid of the one we're targeting, which becomes somewhat annoying. We can get the Breya's Apprentice, which can fog for quite a few turns. And then what are we looking at here? I don't really want to attack into this. And we can play out the Lotus Petal. Yeah, we'll play out the Lotus Petal. So what we can do is use our Engineer to get our Breya's Apprentice back, which might force the cling to dust from our opponent. So they kind of can't play anything this turn unless they've got removal for our 1/1. This has been a tough game. It's been a good one though. One slight problem we have is that the Murktide region is something that can clock us in quite a short amount of time. So we might be Goblin Engineering away our Phyrexian Dragon Engine and then bringing it back with its Unearth to draw 3 to try and find a Pyroblast to kill this Murktide region. That's a thing we can do. Not really what we were hoping for here, is it? Then we go to attacks. Okay, so what we have to do here is we would like the Breya's Apprentice back right now. We can get the... If we get the Painted Servant, it forces them to cling to dust. Cling to dust also massively buffs their Murktide Regent. We'll go for the Breya's Apprentice here. And we'll sacrifice this Dragon Engine. Because we're not expecting this to work. We're using this so we can get our Phyrexian Dragon Engine back into play this turn. Okay, it can only cling to dust one thing unless the card in their hand is really useful. Alright, so here's the cling to dust that we were expecting. Yeah, so this is going to buff their Murktide Regent in quite a large way. So our ability fizzles here. And now we are looking at what? I don't think our life total matters at this point. We either kill this or we don't. So this is 3 and red. So let's unearth this. We'll exile this for mana. Draw 3 cards. We did not find a Pyroblast. Pretty unfortunate. Is there a way that we can do anything now? I don't think so. Nope, I think we're just dead. Alright, that was pretty unfortunate. We felt like we were very, very close to that one. Just needed our opponent to not Murktide. Alright, so what are we looking at here? Leyline of the Void shuts down their Murktide, their Dragon's Rage Channeler, and their Cling to Dust, all of which are very useful tools against us. So I'm certainly into that. The Fury is going to be pretty good against some of their stuff as well. We want to keep our Red Blasts in. They seem pretty potent. Are we looking to slow the game down a bit, maybe? And board out things like Spirit Guides? That seems like a possibility, even though our opponent does have these Wastelands. We want our grinding things here. Fury is just very good against the guy that makes all the 1/1s. So I think that's worth keeping. I guess we're putting one of those in over a Lightning Bolt. Then we've got to find 2 more cuts, which is not easy if we want these Lightning Bolts. Sorry, not Lightning Bolts, Leylines. Maybe we're cutting... Mox Opal doesn't feel great against the meltdown that we are expecting our opponent to have. So we'll get rid of the Mox Opal. And then, what are we looking at? Maybe it is a Lightning Bolt. That doesn't seem amazing though. We definitely need our Fable still. All this. Are we trimming down on our combo? That seems an odd one, but maybe that's what we're supposed to do here. Tricky. Let's take out 1 Painter here. Make ourselves a little bit better versus Meltdown. We'll keep this one. This looks pretty good. We'll begin with a Leyline in play. That will shut off our opponent's Cling to Dust. They get 1 use off of their Cling to Dust, basically. So, maybe we can just... do we just want to roll out this Grindstone? I think we can roll out the Grindstone here before our opponent has any access to something like a Daze that we know they're playing. Which is going to be a Ponder. Okay, so Dragon's Rage Channeler. So, worst case scenario are the things they could play. We do get to try and play a Fable, or we can play a Goblin Engineer around Daze. I think I like the Goblin Engineer around Daze better. Okay, so this can go and get us a Painted Servant, which we technically have the win next turn, but I imagine our opponent's going to have something to say about that. So this is only going to be a 1/1, but it's going... They do have Borrowers and stuff that can get rid of our Leyline, but it's going to filter their draws, which is the problem for us. Okay, they're cracking a Delta here to make the Brainstorm what we call a perfect Brainstorm. They're probably not attacking their 1/1 into our 1/2, so it's over to us. So we have this Underground Sea, which is clearly representing a Cling to Dust. So I'm not going to play into their Cling to Dust here. What I am going to do is cast a Fable and Mirror Breaker around a Daze. Sure. We're going to hold this up, and we're just going to not allow them to get the Cling to Dust value necessarily. Right. There is a chance they don't have it, but I'd like some sort of insurance policy for that. Let's pop out their Exile Zone just so we can see what cards they've gone through. They put a card on top of their library with the Dragon's Rage Channeler, and now they're going to do some pondering. They did not shuffle their library, which is not really a surprise given they left a card on top with their Channeler. A Snuff Out, targeting our Shaman token. Sure. So they can use this to power through the cards in the ponder they didn't want, but they left it on top, sure. They're still holding open this Cling to Dust. We'll say yes to this, we'll picture Fury. Just the one. Alright, and there's a Saga. That's not a terrible draw. Let's play out another Engineer. And we're probably looking at Phyrexian Dragon Engine again here. And then we'll pass. Next turn we get to make a Saga token so we actually have something to weld with. Shot, this is fine. Not super fine, but Fine enough. Let's play out another Saga. And we can pass the turn. What's our opponent casting here? Painful Truths. Yep, this is one of the cards that I had pegged as a replacement for Expressive Iteration. So getting some Surveil. We need to kind of keep an eye on our own clock a little bit here as well. Alright, so end of turn we're going to make a token here. Our opponent's got 2 mana up, so they can have Lightning Bolt and something else. So I think we're going to pass here and then try and go for a grind. Okay, that's pretty handy. So I think this is just tapping for mana. And we'll get a Lotus Petal just to give us even more mana for this turn. And then what are we doing? I think we are going for Grindstone, targeting our opponent here. And then we will get back our Painter's Servant, getting rid of this Grindstone. A Brainstorm from our opponent. So they got 1 mana for a Cling to Dust available, which we can play around. So we can sack the Petal if we need to. Cling to Dust, targeting the Painter's Servant. Sure. So we will weld the Painter's Servant in, sacrificing the Construct token. Surgical Extraction. Okay, so now what we have to do is move this out of the way. So we have to go create a copy of this. We don't actually have the additional... we needed another mana here, didn't we? This stack is ridiculous. So yes, we'll use Goblin Engineer's ability. We don't have another artifact is the issue for us right now. I guess we have to put in the Breya's Apprentice and grind them that way with some value. Yeah, so this is pretty awkward. Our opponent happened to have Surgicals and Cling to Dusts. Pretty awkward for us. We could have played around this by playing out the Saga and the Grindstone first. So I think this is on us if we lose this one. So this fizzles, this fizzles. This mills our opponent a little bit at least. And so now we have this. So I guess we have to show our opponent the mistake we made, which is grim. But there we go. Let's play this out. They have a daze. Sure. Okay, our opponent did really have everything here. So we wouldn't have been able to have made our play even if we did it. Our opponent had the 3 bits of interaction they needed. Sure. So no to that. We don't have any additional artifacts, so I guess we just have to let it go. Yikes. So how much damage is this? 1, 2, 3, plus 6. That's 9. Okay. But our opponent is on 9 themselves. And we can bring back the Phyrexian Dragon Engine, make a copy of it, and that's 8. Okay. So they're not going to attack with all their creatures here. They don't need to do an alpha swing now. Unless if they've got a Lightning Bolt, then fair enough. They probably have it at this point because they've seen so much of their deck. Right. Going to be pretty tough for us to win here. Now we have Fury, which can certainly help. But we don't really have a lot of time to draw it. As in, we need to draw it right now. And that's if our opponent doesn't have a Lightning Bolt. A Snuff Out. Our opponent going to 2. We have Lightning Bolt in our deck. So this doesn't kill us unless they have a Lightning Bolt. So our plan is reanimate Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Lightning Bolt our opponent. Surgical Extraction on the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Okay, our opponent really does have it all. Again, not that much of a surprise because they've seen so many cards. But this is one of the reasons why I said Dragon's Race Channeler should have been banned. But alright. We can just draw a Lightning Bolt. We've got a Breya's Apprentice as well. So that can draw us some cards. Now our opponent has to not have a counter spell for what we're doing. Okay, so this is going to... I think we're going to make... Like, we're dead here anyway, so let's make 1 token off of this. So we have something to weld. And then this can go and get us a Soulguide Lantern. We will exile this as a Saga. This gives us a redraw again if we need one. Okay, so play this out. The Breya's Apprentice will be summoning 6. I won't be able to sacrifice a thing. So we are on draw a card off of this. Okay, and then we sacrifice. So we would like our Soulguide Lantern back, and we will sacrifice this construct for it. We will exile our Saga, play this out. We will draw a card, our Soulguide Lantern, Pyroblast, the wrong red one. So if we sacrifice this, so we pay red to sacrifice this to bring back the Soulguide Lantern. We sacrifice the Soulguide Lantern. We don't have any mana left. We are so close. I think we are done. Oh, let's have a little draw. See if it was the next card down. If we were 1 away. All right, it's not going to show us. Fair enough. So this matchup felt like it was probably all right. Our opponent had to have a lot of stuff to beat us. And they did happen to have all of those things. And they had a lot of filtering going. But I think we were... Well, I think we were very close to winning this game. And it just panned out a little bit awkward for us. So maybe... Like, they definitely had the cling to dust, so we didn't play into it earlier. But maybe if we play into it earlier and we get it out of the way, we can sort of marshal our turns better a little bit. I don't know. All right, bit of a sad one, but Arkan is one of the better legacy players on Magic Gathering Online, so it's not really a shame to lose to him. Let's go to round 4. All right, this is the hand we've been presented with for round 4. It's going to be good against elves, but I'm not really sure. We're on the draw, actually. So if we can get another mana source, we can get this as a Saga online, start doing some things. I think we can just about keep this one. Like, we have an artifact to start welding with. A volcanic island. All right, Dragon's Rage Channeler. Not something I'm a massive fan of having to face off against. All right, let's play a welder. This should get a daze or a lightning bolt out of our opponent. It's not really our game plan. So we're hoping to try and fire for Fury soon with Red Blast protection and daze protection. And maybe nab 2 creatures at once would be great. Okay, maybe nab 3 creatures at once. Play another one. Please play another one. Just a lightning bolt on our guy. Sure. Right, so we're going to take 1 this turn, and then we're into the Urza Saga portion of this game. A Goblin Engineer is quite a nice one as well, though. So what we got here, we got land, creature, instant. So these are probably going to flip next turn, so I think we have to try and do something about them. So we will evoke this Fury. I think we will just pitch the other Fury. We have Daze protection, we have Force of Will protection. So we will hit both of these. I probably should have put 3 on one and 1 on the other, just in case they flip, because they become 3/3s. That would have been a slightly tighter line. So we can play out our engineer here. It might get a daze, but I think it's worth playing. Okay, no daze there. So yes, I think we go and get ourselves... Is it the Breya's Apprentice here? Or is it the Painter? Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. I think we get Breya's. Gives us something that can block the Murktide. A Ponder. Alright, so our engineer's getting blown away. That's fine. Now we can just play in it as a Saga game, or we can get this Fable the Mirror Breaker up and running. I think I want the Saga up and running though. I think that's where I want to go. Sure. So we can hold up a blast in case we need one. A Murktide Regent. So we can blast this in our turn, which I think is fine. This way it eats stuff out of their graveyard, so it makes their later plays worse. I think I just want to float with this first, because we can put it into the other Saga anyway. And what are we getting here? I think we're probably getting a Soulguide Lantern. We'll take the Delta, because that keeps them off of Delirium. And then we're going to play out this. We're going to play out this. Then we're going to try and Pyroblast our opponent's thing. Have you got Forcible Blue card in hand? No, that's good. So then we will make this using... Okay, they're just scooping up to that because we're going to be making a load of Saga. So this one's going to be a 5/5 on attacks. And then next turn, we're going to attack them with 2 6/6s. So we managed to get there. Nice. All right. So what do you want for the Delver matchup? You can play the Leyline and the Void plan here, but I don't necessarily think that's where we want to be. I quite like Pithing Needle for Wasteland as an option. I like Abrade. And I like Fury. I don't think I want to go into Maguses and such. I think Mox Opal is a liability, and we know they're bringing in Meltdown. And then we're looking at cutting 1 thing here. Sorry, 2 things here. The Abrade is just going to be worse than Lightning Bolts, right? So I guess we can take that out. And do we even want the Pithing Needle? We just want the Fury. So this would be naming Wasteland. Now the problem is we get the Pithing Needle off of the Urza Saga a lot of the time. And by that point, either the Urza Saga has been Wastelanded before we get it, or it doesn't really matter. So I think we probably just want the Fury for the Mox. I like the fast mana to play around their soft permission and hold up surprise Pyroblast. So we're going to submit like this. Interesting. So we have Lightning Bolt and Blast. We have the combo sewn up eventually. I think we can just keep this. We have a basic mountain to lead on. A Mishra's Bauble from our opponents. They're going to get a little look at our top card of our library, and they'll inform how they play this turn potentially. They're going to make a threat. Because we're on the draw, we can't just like snap off a Lightning Bolt on their creature if they play a creature. We kind of need to play around a daze. Okay, they didn't play a threat, which is excellent for us. All right, so I think we probably just start out on a mountain here. So we've got 2 answers for Murktide in hand, which is excellent. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Sure. A Wasteland. Less good for us. Problem is, because our Urza Saga, we can't play around daze with it anyway. I think we have to Lightning Bolt now. So if they have a daze, they counter it. What they can do is they can Wasteland our Urza Saga in response. We'd have to play out the City of Traitors if we wanted to resolve this. This way we can untap and deploy some stuff, in theory. A Great Furnace. So we would have drawn something that would have allowed us to do it. What would we most like to have wastelanded here is the question. I think it's probably the Great Furnace. So we'll play the Great Furnace out as wasteland bait, holding up our blasts to stop a Murktide Regent. Okay, so we're going to take 3, so we're under the gun a little bit here. Opponent's still not wastelanding. Maybe they're going to do it in our upkeep. Sure, so we'll float red. Probably not using that red. We're not using that red. Okay, so now we can play out Painter and try and blast this if we want to. It's going to leave our City of Traitors a little bit exposed, but I don't know if we have the time to mess around. The other option we have here is just play out Saga. So you can play out Saga and go for a Painter here because we have a spare one, so we don't mind us getting dazed. If they daze it, it means Murktide is further away. We'll name blue, so our Pyroblast are extra good, and we can use them to blow up the Dragon's Rage channeler. Sure, so they're just going to Lightning Bolt our guy, that's fine. We have a second one. We were expecting it to get some sort of card out of our opponent's hand. And Lightning Bolt is a fair enough card to get out. So if they don't have a Wasteland, we can start making... Okay, they do have a Wasteland, so we're going to lose our Urza Saga, sure. But now we can Paint a Servant and blast the channeler. We do get a little bit unstuck by a daze, though. Okay, we definitely have to blast the channeler now because the amount of damage it's going to stack up is too much. So, I think we are on City of Traitors into Paint a Servant. And we'll name blue. And we will destroy this guy. We do it now so they can't cast any spells in response. We do have the potential to win next turn if our opponent gives us what looks like an opening. This looks like a Murktide. A Counterbalance. Bit rude. So if we draw an Ancient Tomb here, that's not an Ancient Tomb. So what we can do is we can Fury to get rid of this, and we get to see what's on top of their library with the Counterbalance. They probably won't flip it to Fury. They could have a Force of Will, not to use Counterbalance's ability. So this stops them being able to refresh their Counterbalance. We have to assume they have a 1 on top of their library, because that's the thing you want to counter in this spot, because it does Pyroblast and stuff like that. So that's what you would leave on top of your library if I were them. So pretty much what's happening with these blue-red Delver decks is they've just replaced Expressive Iteration with Mercurial Spelldancer for the most part. Seems pretty strong. So there's a Murktide. Understood. I don't think it's getting any better here. They don't know the top card of their library. Let's see what we have. It's quite likely to be a 1-drop given the average cost of stuff. A Bauble. That's pretty good for us. Float 2. Play this. Okay, we got the game there. So we were patient and waited it out, and we got there. Excellent. I think we had to get rid of the DRC to stop them sculpting the top of their library, because I don't think we can win through that. All right. All right, we're on the play for the final round to see if we can get a 4-1. Let's have a look at this opening hand. We don't have any red mana. That feels problematic to me. Now, what we can do is we can go turn 1 Urza Saga, turn 2 City of Traitors, make a construct, and then make another construct. But where do we go from there? I think we're supposed to muck in this. This one seems a bit more like what I would like to be doing. We can keep this. We're in a bit of a bind here. I think we get rid of the Mox Opal. It can accelerate us out, but I think we are just better off starting out with a basic mountain, holding up a Pyroblast, playing Engineer, depending on what our opponent does. We have Fury if they've got creatures, Pyroblast if they're like a combo deck like Storm with Echo of Eons type thing. I feel this is just a reasonable hand. And if we find a Saga or something, or a Painter, we can get whatever we need off of the Engineer. We don't really know what we're getting off the Engineer yet, so I don't know if I want to actually play it out. An Ancient Tomb. That encourages me to play the Painter out, because I can play around a daze now. So this can get us a card advantage engine like Breya's Apprentice. Force of Will, pitching daze, sure. So we've got a 2-4 off of that. We could have waited a turn and tried to Pyroblast, but I think we had an option there of playing around a daze. Our opponent didn't have anything on board. If we can get a Breya's Apprentice on the following turn because we have Artifact lands, that would have been great. A Spelldancer, sure. So this dies to Pyroblast. And we can play Pyroblast around a daze quite easily here. We can Pyroblast it in the upkeep when they have less cards in hand. In our upkeep, sorry. A Goblin Welder. It's a pretty good one. I think we can play this one out. If our opponent plays more creatures, we have a Fury that we can hardcast next turn, which is pretty cool. Should do some work. It's our opponent's turn. We don't actually have anything to do with our Welder just yet. Feels like we don't have the most amount of ways of leveraging the Welder right now. Okay, a Tarmogoyf. This is a 4-5, which is conveniently bigger than our Fury, which is annoying. Okay. Like, we can play out a Fury here, but it gets eaten up by a daze. If we wait one more turn, we can play it around a daze, and it can trade with a Tarmogoyf. We also might pick up some other creature by casting it. I think we can just take the 4 this turn, and then play a Fury around a Daze. I don't think we want to give up our Welder just yet. We have a lot of draws that can make the Welder really strong. And Urza Saga, that's a pretty good card to have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this can just swallow up the Tarmogoyf. It can't kill it now, but if it attacks, it can trade. Now, if they have a Lightning Bolt, then they just kill our Fury, and that feels pretty bad for us. I don't think we want to attack in case they have something like an Endurance or a Hull Breacher. We don't want to just waste our Welder when we're hoping to get some value going soon. Okay, so they have a Lightning Bolt. Pretty bad for us. So we're going to take a big hit from the Goyf this turn, but we're going to start deploying some Saga tokens next turn. They're going to be 1, 2, 3. That's not that big. This is also a 3/3. So we are getting Rug Delvered over here. A Red Blast. Not the one, really. Okay. So we're probably going to have to throw something under the bus. That might end up being the Welder. Thing is, we can get the Soul-Guide Lantern next turn and shrink both of these. We kind of just need to survive this turn. 1, 2, 3. So I think the Welder, sadly, has to go under here. 3. Okay, let's make a guy. They could have a Stifle here. That would be annoying. Let's tap these. Do we get our search trigger? We do. Okay, Soul-Guide Lantern. So first things first, we take off the... actually, so we've got creature, creature, creature. So if we take out our land... No, they've got fetch lands. That's not the one we need to take out. If we take out our instant... Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because the Tarmogoyf checks both graveyards. And play this out. I think we are on blocking duty over here. So we can gobble up the Channeler in combat. Borrower or something. Petty Theft on our tokens. Pretty strong here. Murktide Regent. They just gobbled up their whole graveyard. Let's try and counter this. Maybe we're supposed to let that resolve in case they have something like Veil of Summer. And then try and blow it up once it's in play. Okay, we're kind of hoping to force the Dragon's Rage Channeler into attacks and then Soul-Guide Lantern it away. So we've got somewhat punished there. I think we probably need to draw a card here. Not the best of times, the old Sokenzan. Okay, so we just died to this flyer. Nothing we can do there. I respect my opponent enough to assume that they know how to turn their guy sideways. So, last time we boarded in a Fury and we boarded out the Mox Opal. Our opponent has got more colours now, so maybe there's a bit of tension about whether or not we want these Maguses in. I don't think we do. I don't think we want the Leylines either. But yeah, I think this is fine. I think just having so many blasts is going to be strong. Alright, this hand does not do the things we need it to do. Not big on this hand, but we do have the ability to just combo off. So I think we keep this. And we get rid of one of these City of Traitors that we're not particularly fond of. Now, if this was a mountain, I would feel much happier about it. But we have this land that I don't think is necessarily worth it. There's a lot of mixed feelings about that land. In this current situation, I would much rather have a mountain. So, guess we play it out. It very much says that we don't have a mountain in hand. Okay, it wasn't the Wasteland. They do have the best start though. So we can line about this, which I think is the correct thing to do. So we're going to play out our Urza Saga, get this stacking, and try and bolt this, playing around Daze. Excellent. A Ponder. A Wasteland. So we're going to lose our Saga. Sure. That was something we thought might happen. I think we are on playing out one of our engineers here. This is into a Daze, but our opponent is on the draw, so Daze is pretty bad for them anyway. So here I think we're looking at Breya's Apprentice again, and we're just going to go for the value train. So our opponent's turn. Probably Lightning Bolt. There we go. Lightning Bolt. Sure. And a Wasteland, so we're probably losing our Furnace, because that means we don't have anything to engineer with. Okay. I guess we're playing Goblin Engineer with no artifacts. Bit awkward. So what are we supposed to find here is the question. Are we supposed to find the Dragon Engine so that we can have something that we can bring back on its own anyway? Or are we supposed to just find part of our combo? It's tough. It's a tough one. I think we're supposed to get the Dragon Engine here. And we're not going to spend that mana. Right, this City of Traitors is also pretty awkward, truth be told. Sure. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. And a land. I think we're supposed to bolt this rather than play this Fable here. We just can't allow them to have this much selection. We get 1 point of damage in with our Engineer now. Now it's our opponent's turn. So they close out like a Goyf here, which is going to be quite large. 6-7. Wowzers, trousers, that's big. And we have these Furies, but we know they're kind of not very good. I think we are Trying to resolve a Fable and Mirror Breaker. If they counter this, it's an artifact in the bin, it pumps their Goyf. If they don't counter it, we get a guy. Can make artifacts, which lets us put our Phyrexian Dragon Engine into play, which would be nice. Or our Breya's Apprentice, which can provide chump blockers for this Tarmogoyf. So we take 6 this turn. If our opponent plays something, we can, well, depending on what they play, we might be able to Fury it. 1, 2, okay. So they can make a 5/5 Murktide if they want to. Lightning Bolt on the Engineer. Understood, we're not getting the thing we need here. And now they're going to do a 6/6 Murktide. So, pretty bad. I think we have to bin both cards to try and find a... we have to bin 2 cards and try and find a Pyroblast. I think both of these have to go, to be honest. Sad as that is. We could have had Fury Lightning Bolt there. Okay, so what is our plan here? So we play out this Grindstone. We have to chump block with our little guy here. I guess we can play out another Grindstone here. It gives us more things to mess around with. But yeah, I think we're in trouble. 6 plus 5 is 11. If you block and take 6, we have to then block the next turn. But I think sadly something we have to do and try and draw a Pyroblast. I think that's the only way we're winning this game. This can chump block for a turn, then we can Pyroblast. We did not draw a Pyroblast. So we need to play another one of these. So we've got another chump blocker. If they've got Lightning Bolt, we die. There's nothing we can do about that. Dragon's Rage Channeler, that's not a Lightning Bolt, but maybe it can be an attacking creature soon. So, I think we're supposed to chump block with our Shaman here. Reason being, if we find something like a Welder, we can play Welder, copy it, and then weld something back. Lightning Bolt? Yeah, they just had a Lightning Bolt that's going to our face. Sure. Right, we lose that one to finish 3 and 2. So, we lost to 2 sort of Delve. We basically lost to 2 Dragon's Rage Channeler decks. And I think the best deck in Legacy is going to be a Dragon's Rage Channeler deck. Quite which Dragon's Rage Channeler it's going to be, I don't know. I've been someone who's saying that Dragon's Rage Channeler is a card that's been needing to be banned because the selection you get off it is just incredible. And you can plug the gaps of the losing the EI relatively easy in Delver, in my opinion. Whether we saw Painful Truths and we saw Mercurial Spelldancer, so it doesn't feel like it's going to be very difficult for Delver decks to remain the best deck in the format. Generally speaking, Painter's pretty good against those decks. Obviously, Tarmogoyf does add a slightly difficult layer because we can't really interact with it with our removal. We have to have Painter Blast to kill a Tarmogoyf. Whereas like we can Fury or Bolt a Dragon's Rage Channeler, and then we've got Pyroblast for the Murktide. Alright, let's talk about the deck. So this is the deck that took down the Legacy in the Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy, I think it was. And yeah, like it's a pretty standard mono red painter deck, which is a solid deck. I would say it's probably, well, before the bans, I would say it's in the top 6 or 7 decks in the format. Probably 5th or 6th best deck in the format, roughly. Obviously, things have changed, and our opponents had some of these things that were the changes. So we saw Painful Truths, which isn't something we can interact with very easily with our deck. We saw the Tarmogoyfs being a thing in Delver now, which we can't really interact with very easily. So I think the Painter matchups are going to be slightly worse across the board in terms of like the Delvery decks, but I don't think it's enough to impact Delver, impact Painter to not be a very good and competitive deck right now. I think you're probably going to be looking at changing some sideboard slots, maybe having a more reliable way of killing things like Tarmogoyf might be good. But yeah, I think this deck was good. It's going to need to change now because the format's changed, and obviously this is a list from 2 days before the bans, so it's not going to be exactly on the money yet. But you could start with this deck list and build from it and it'd be pretty good. Alternatively, you can join the Painter Servant Discord because there's loads of great people there who are very good at playing Painter, who have got some nice builds, and they do a lot of practicing and innovations. And you can watch Lightwalker's channel if you just Google that one. He plays a lot of Painter. He basically only plays Painter on his channel, and he's incredibly good at it. So you should definitely check him out. I don't really have much else to say about the deck, but I think it's interesting to talk about how the format looks to be shaking out. It's obviously, this is day 1 of the new format. And obviously we didn't play against any Initiative. Now, I think there will still be initiative decks. They're probably going to be red-white, more like a red prison deck that runs Seasoned Engineer and Caves of Chaos Adventurer as the initiative guys. I think that's probably fine, and we should just expect to see that, really. And I don't think that's going to be as punishing as the initiative is. I personally think they should just errata the mechanics, so it's just not a legacy thing, because they should just make it a multiplayer, but ignore me for that one. So, talking about going forward, I think we're going to have lots of people playing lots of different Delver builds. Now, I replied to somebody's tweet earlier today, and I said the two angles I expect people to go is either Rug Tempo, like the good old days, or Grixis Spelldancer with Painful Truths. And we basically saw both of those today. Instead of going for the Mercurial Spelldancer, our opponent went for the Third Path Iconoclast. They were more like the old Young Pyromancer Delver lists, like Grixis Pyromancer, which was a big deck for a long time. Some of that was off the back of Gitaxian Probe being very strong, because Gitaxian Probe into double Cabal Therapy was really brutal. But I think that's more or less where they're going to shake out in terms of the Delver decks. Now, which one is going to be best, I don't know. They're probably going to have different spreads of matchups, so it's going to see what everyone else is playing and sort of ebb and flow that way. But I suspect that Delver is still the best deck, and I don't think that's going to change until we attack the one drop of Dragon's Rage Channeler, to be honest. Some people think maybe it's the Murktide that should go, but I think the Dragon's Rage Channeler gives them reliability of tempo for having a really good one drop all the time. It gives them card selection, and it fills their graveyard for whatever Delve creature they're going to play, whether it's Murktide Regent, Ethereal Forager, or Tomb Stalker, Gurmag Angler. There's always going to be something that they can play there. I think you have to get rid of the enabler in Dragon's Rage Channeler. Now, I'm not saying we need bans now. I'm just saying that I've been saying that EI and Dragon's Rage Channeler are the two cards that need to go for quite a long time now. But I suspect we're going to be living in Dragon's Rage Channeler's world for the foreseeable future. I don't think it's going to be as oppressive as it was, but I do think it's still going to be the best deck. All right, I think we're about done with there. If you're still here and still listening to me, why not like, comment, and subscribe? Tell me what you think the format's going to shake out to. I'd really like to know some of your thoughts on that, and what decks that you think might be good now that Expressive Iteration and White Plume are gone. So, you know, let me know. I might play some of these ideas that you have. I'm always open to stuff. All right. Oh, and subscribe. I don't know if I mentioned that. Subscribe. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers now, so if you can help me out with that, it would be wonderful. All right. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.